Welcome back to another soul driven episode. Today, I am so excited because I'm introducing a completely new series to the podcast called Soul Politics. And I am welcoming Miss Lauren in to be here, to be with me, to be co hosting this series. And I'm really excited to just begin this adventure. Lauren and I have been exchanging messages and going back and forth and just kind of really nerding out a bit on how it is we want to create this, what we want to share with you. And so today's episode is really an introduction to both Lauren and I. Of course, you're probably pretty familiar with me, but we're going to be sharing a little bit about our relationship to politics, our background with politics, some of our political philosophies, and just kind of sharing with you as well how this series is going to be different. There are a lot of political podcasts out there, but our main purpose in creating this series is really being able to offer you a much higher perspective to all that is taking place right now within the United States, perhaps the world at large, depending upon what we're going to be talking about. And also looking at it through the lens of the modalities that we work with, the Akashic Records, tarot, our psychic communications, whatever the case may be. We really want to be able to offer you hope in these times, and also to let you know like what we're going through and why. Both of us are very intent upon giving a realistic perspective in regards to what is taking place. But because there's always a higher view and a higher perspective, we know that this will be very helpful in these times. And especially as we're getting ready to kick off 2026, which is going to be a massive, massive year for the entire planet, especially here within the United States, we really felt that this would be so timely. So, as we're kind of moving through today and kind of sharing some things with you, just a bit of a caveat that there's no way we can share everything with you up front, nor do we want to. But at the same time, we just welcome you to come on this journey with us and to open yourself up, to be curious, to ask your own questions, to tune into your own intuition. We aren't here to tell you what to do or to tell you how to think, but to encourage you to really tune in to your own wisdom that is within. And also, again, just to assist you in widening your perspective, perhaps aiding you in thinking about something from a different perspective. And honestly, just having fun kind of geeking out on a topic that both Lauren and I are very passionate about, which is politics. So, welcome to the podcast, Lauren. Welcome back, I should say.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been very, very excited about this. You reached out. I won't go into all the details right now, but at like the perfect astrological timing where I've already been doing like political things and we've been just keeping in contact with each other. Like we almost went to a protest together, like we crossed wires, it didn't happen, but like we've been, talking about this stuff behind the scenes, through our socials. And so it's nice to feel like this is actually manifesting into something that can help other people and not just like stay between us. Like, because we are like, I feel like this is going to happen. I feel like this is going to happen. And I'm really excited that we're going to get to share that energy with everybody else.
Yeah, it's going to be wonderful. And just for those who are tuning in and are very familiar with my podcast, one of the reasons that I asked Lauren to be with me on this series and to kind of join in is I've been following Lauren's work for several years. I really respect how it is that she works with the spiritual world. She is an incredible teacher. She actually came into the Soul Driven Collective and taught a workshop. But I had her on the podcast as well. It's episode 241 if you'd like to check that out. But I saw Lauren start talking about politics. And then we started exchanging and kind of learning more. And we both live here in Colorado, very close to one another, actually,
Hmm.
within an hour of each other. So
Yeah.
we'll have a meetup at some point.
Yes. We'll actually meet each other once.
Yes, absolutely. But it just felt so good to, as my own path towards and into politics and talking about politics, if you've been tuning into the podcast, you know my Akashic guides have been on me about it for a while, and I have been sharing more and more. But I really wanted someone that I respected to assist me in this, to also bring in another perspective, because it's not like I know everything and I have all the answers. And it's wonderful to have these conversations with other people. And in the midst of this, Lauren and I may disagree on topics. We may, and those things are all equally valid. And I hope that we bring that to the forefront for you and assist you in, having the permission to see things from a different perspective from those that you love, those in your life, because, we're all different. We come to things differently. But ultimately, I felt like Lauren would be the perfect partner to have in this. And so I'm very excited to kick off this series as well. And again, just dive into nerding out on politics. So, first and foremost, Lauren, why don't you kind of share a little bit about what you do and your background? And yeah, we'll just start there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a psychic. That is the gist of what I do. But I also have been trained in a lot of different modalities. I'm a medium, I'm an animal communicator, like medical intuitive. I've done Reiki, like the list just goes on and on. More recently, I've been studying astrology. But most of what I do is I actually teach people how to develop their psychic abilities. And that is kind of like the main thing that I do through my Psychic Development Society, through my YouTube channel, my podcast. And so the politics has been a recent addition to this, and we can talk about that later. Um, but for the most part, I'm coaching others on how to trust their intuition, grow their intuition, strengthen it, and have it become more accurate and more reliable. So I both do coaching and like readings for people who are not interested in that, but that's kind of the short elevator pitch of what I do.
Yes, Lauren has many talents, many skills. We have spoken about our love for animal communications, the animal
Mhm.
kingdom at large. Beautiful. So, Lauren, why don't you kind of kick off with sharing about your relationship to politics a little bit, perhaps about how you were raised,
Mm,
just your background.
yeah. Um, I was raised, and I'll try to keep this short. I was raised kind of, I mean, we didn't really talk about politics, but my family was more on the conservative side purely for what I understand now was financial reasons, Oh, we're conservative because that's going to make us money and that's what we do. And so just was kind of raised in a, hey, we all believe in this, and so hey, we're all going to vote for this. Not that my parents were ever like you have to be this way or something like that. They were always very open, not only with like my religion, but with politics and everything. So I kind of grew up in a very like privileged home, privileged household. And so I didn't have a whole lot of like awful things happen to me. I was very wealthy growing up. And I feel like I have to just like acknowledge that in that place that I came from. Um, but I've always just been passionate about injustice. And I think it comes from being a highly sensitive person and just noticing when things are not right for certain groups of people, whether it was animals or my friends in school or something like that. And I've had a lot of colleagues over the years, a lot of people that I've been, very grateful to be around, and I've learned from them and their stories. And although it hasn't affected me directly, I mean, it has to some extent, but just being exposed to all of that has helped me to realize that like there's people that have it a lot harder. And I don't mean to say that in like I'm like I don't know, so privileged and amazing and I have no problems. But I've always kind of like voted with that in mind. And I've always been passionate about voting because I have kids. I want to create the world that I want to see and I want to live in. And more recently, to kind of speed it up till now, I think when Trump first became president and that day after that happened, I was like, holy crap, I need to start paying attention to politics more because if I'm not paying attention, I mean, I did vote in that election, I did vote in the one before that, but if I'm not paying attention, shit like this will happen and I don't like this. And so I kind of set it as like a personal mission behind the scenes for the next couple years after that to just start learning, soaking up information, and doing better, you know? And I think that after his second term, because before his second term, when we had Biden and I had my son, I told my husband, I was like, if he gets elected again, bad things are gonna happen. I don't like this. And so when he did get elected again, I felt like I just woke up with another fire in my belly. Story for another time, but for weeks on end, I was angry and enraged. And kind of like what you said, my guides really pushed me to speak on it, talk about it, because I was getting hits at the same time. And so it was a combination of already being passionate about it, but then I'm getting intuitive nudges about it, and my guides would not let me not talk about it. So that's kind of like what has brought me to politics and speaking about it more politically, spiritually, today.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. I mean, the
Mhm.
thing is that, I feel like it always is a personal something that affects us personally or someone or something that affects someone we really love
Yeah.
personally that brings us into caring about politics, and
Yeah.
I do believe that that is one of the deep benefits of Trump even getting into office, even with his first term, right,
Mm.
was a lot of people who are just, I mean, let's be honest, here in the US, the majority of us have pretty much been checked out in
Yeah.
regards to our systems and whether they truly serve us. And, we've just kind of been eating what they've been giving out, which is
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, we're in the land of the free. And we're like all these things, all these ideas about what it is to be an American and live in the US and, our
Hmm.
rights. Um, and I think that that really started waking up so many people. I remember
Yeah.
walking around in a haze for about 2 days after that, just like,
Hmm.
what is happening? What is life? It was such a wild, wild time.
Yep.
And inevitably knowing that things were never going to be the same,
Mm.
right? For all of us. So for me, politics has always been a really big part of my life, even though it wasn't necessarily like, ooh, who's the president? I am a child of a biracial couple. My parents are two very different colors. And I grew up in a small town. We were considered to, my father is Spanish, my mother is German. She's, I think, in her late, I don't think she's in her late 60s and still has like baby blonde hair. And my father is a very dark Spanish man. And
Mm.
so growing up, there were a lot of issues around that we dealt with as a family, as kids. I saw people, they racially profiled my family often. There were all kinds of things that happened, and yet at the same time, I mean, for most people, if they look at me, they just assume,
Yeah.
I'm Caucasian and maybe I have like a little bit of darker hair, darker features, right?
Hmm.
But growing up in a small town, it was like there were a lot of topics that were on the forefront for me. And because I am so intuitive and I see things so clearly, it was very obvious to me from a very young age that people treated us differently. They looked at us
Mm.
differently. And quite frankly, this wasn't really something I dealt with in my personal life until I got into high school. But my younger siblings, especially my youngest sister, who's much darker than me, she dealt with things on a very different level. And, also, growing up in a small town, there were only a few African American families in town. Just I think for me, understanding that there were these different levels in society and there were these different viewpoints and really getting to understand racism, social structures, these types of things, again, from kind of like a very sort of set back perspective.
Mm.
Um, and then when I got into college, I started taking, well, we had, of course, to take political classes. I probably wouldn't have signed up for them on my own.
Yeah.
But it was very important to me, even when I was in high school, I wrote for the editorial page, and I often talked about topics that were really affecting, you know, some people versus other people, and kind of made a big fuss about things. But really getting into politics and learning about the structures in college kind of turned my head in a way, specifically because it showed me like, holy crap, like these are our systems. This is what it's built upon.
Mhm.
And mind you, when I went back to college, I was in my later 20s. I was an adult. I had spent many years traveling in my early 20s, and being able to witness a lot of the racism and the issues that were important to me specifically in other countries, and
Mhm.
seeing those differences. Um, so once I got out of college and got into life, politics started being something that I was paying attention to a lot more. And very similar to Lauren, I have always been very passionate about injustice. I mean, to anyone. I'm even someone who, I don't have enemies, but when I was younger and I would have like issues with people, even if I saw them being mistreated, it really brings out something in me. And I want to defend them. I want to take care of them.
Mhm.
Um, I've always kind of said, if you come after me, like it's going to be a lot to piss me off. But if you go after an animal, someone who can't defend themselves, or someone that I love, freaking forget about it. Um, and, I think similar to Lauren, when Trump first got into office, we all started waking up. And I too started realizing at that point in time that this was something I needed to be paying more attention to, be more involved about. Local politics was actually something that I started getting involved with at that point, just on a very low level. There were a couple of two different times where I almost fully got involved in kind of a much bigger way, but it just wasn't the right time. And when Lauren and I were preparing this, this podcast, like talking about it, it was like, yeah, I wasn't, I needed to be humbled first. I needed to grow up first. I needed, a number of these things. Um, but my Akashic guides have been very vocal with me for the past year and a half about getting much more involved in politics. And especially once Trump was reelected, things just started, going haywire in regards to my guides being like, you have to speak about this, you have to speak about this.
Mhm.
And it's been one of those things that I've talked about some, but nowhere near as much as I would have liked to. This is because I care and I've always cared. This is a huge, we're going through a huge shift on our planet. And so, ultimately politics for me is is just as important as taking care of ourselves, taking care of anything that's going on in life right now. And I believe it's going to, come to the forefront as probably one of, if not the most important topics for humanity moving forward, because the people who are in charge are the people who are making decisions for everybody, and that's massive, and that is ultimately, you know a big part of why getting into politics right now is so huge and starting
Mhm.
to speak out on these topics, um, which is why it's, very important for Lauren and I to do this. So let's kind of dive into our political philosophies.
Mhm.
And Lauren, I'd love for you to kind of kick this off.
Yeah.
Um,
Awesome. Yeah. My political philosophies, again, I feel like I'm coming from a place of learning. And I mean, not so much the last couple of years. I feel like I'm a very fast learner. And that was one of the things that gave me a lot more confidence to speak up about this, is that I started to talk to people who knew a lot about politics, and I realized, oh, I can keep up. Oh, I actually know a lot more now than I thought I did. But before, let's see, I think that again, kind of leaning more towards, okay, I'm just going to do whatever my parents voted for. But even in college, like learning, like you said, traveling, being around other people, seeing how things affected them, I started to vote Democrat. And I feel like my dad's probably going to come up a lot in this podcast. My dad is actively, I think, still MAGA. I mean, ugh, I won't go there right now, but he kind of influenced that. And I became more Democratic leaning, and he became kind of jabs here and there. But I was like, you know what, that's okay. I'm gonna do my thing. But point being, my political leaning tends to be more Democrat. But I try to really like understand the whole system, like every possible angle. Like I've looked into like what does it mean to be liberal? What does it mean to be social? And I feel like I tend to lean more towards like democratic socialism, but I don't want to say that like hard and fast yet because again, I'm still learning and trying to soak up everything. I agree that the two-party system doesn't work. I feel like it's got to be at least three for it to even work. And I kind of believe that our voting system isn't the best. I really like ranked choice voting, that Australia has. I feel like that's a much better way of doing things. Um, I'm trying to think of what else I could say about that. But yeah, I feel like mostly I'm still learning and I'm trying not to put myself in a box because I'm worried that that box is not right. You know what I mean? And my hope is that, that people listening because I've had so many people come to my political podcast and be like, I don't know, I don't, I'm afraid to even look at it. I don't, it seems like such a big place to start. And my hope is that, I'm inspiring people to just start learning, to start picking up pieces here and there. You don't have to be perfect, but you can start with like your personal values and see what labels assigned to those values. And more often than not, like all of my personal values align Democrat. Um, but even then, Democrat doesn't check all the boxes that I would say feel correct for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, this is why I like having you on the podcast is going to be so great because I feel like you're going to know these super nerdy things and about systems that I don't. Like I haven't heard about the Australian system.
Mm,
But I love that you bring that up. I think that coming at this from a place of learning is the best possible place to
mhm.
come at it from, and I love that you share that specifically because that's ultimately like what we want to encourage people to do as they're tuning in. Not only like digging into perhaps some history, understanding our system better, but then of course like utilizing our own personal intuition, right, to be the
Yeah.
ultimate guiding force in how we do view things. And so I love that you shared that. For me, I am a registered Democrat and always have been. Obama was the first election that I actually voted in, and proudly did so. For me, though, I'm not about labels. I don't enjoy labels. I think labels are very limiting. And especially when it comes to a two-party system, it's very difficult to be like, I fit in this camp or I fit in this camp. And, when we look at the world at large, this is a very polarizing planet. We have the light, we have the dark, we have love, we have hate. And those things are all in place for a very specific reason. But I remember back in 2020 when we went into lockdown and,
Mm,
all of these discussions, it was like masks, no masks, vaccines, no vaccines. And I just realized that these things are kind of put into place to further divide us. And that was a big time for me spiritually. And I just realized like I'm stepping back, but even when I voted and initially signed up as a Democrat, my viewpoint has always been I vote for the best person, period. I don't care if they're Republican. I don't care if they're Democrat. I don't care if they're freaking whatever. If someone steps forward that I believe is going to be a good leader, then I will vote for them.
mhm.
Um, And one of my little like tricks is I always check out the wives or the partners. That
That's
tells
a good
me
idea.
everything I need to know about who to vote for. Because it's
Great
pretty
idea.
wild. Some of these people who've ran, like their spouses clearly can't stand them. So if they can't
Mhm.
stand them, why would we like them? You know what I'm saying? Like
Or they're like
something's going
30 years
on.
younger than they are and
Well,
like
it's just
children.
you can tell you can tell so much about a person
Hmm.
by who they choose to partner up with in
Mm.
life. And so that was always kind of my hack that I would tell folks. I'm like, check out who they're married to. Um, for me, when it comes to my political philosophies, I am for humanity. I am for love. And love to me is not some ooey gooey emotion. Love is saying no. Love is setting boundaries. Love is thinking about the whole and the all. And so for me, I don't look at parties or yes or no. And really, what was so beautiful about what happened to me in 2020 when I kind of saw this perspective, it was like, I don't know if you remember this, Lauren, but there were basketball players who were like bowing on one knee during
Yeah,
that
they were
time.
kneeling. Yeah.
Yeah, against racism. And it was like also against like the police force and these types
Hmm.
of things. And there was this photo that came out, and I actually did a podcast about this, but there was this photo of this game where it was like some of the team was bowing in protest of racism, and some of the team was standing because maybe they had family members who were, involved in the military or the police force, but they were all holding hands in
Hmm.
solidarity. And for me, ultimately, that showed me it was like there's the middle space, is what I
Yeah.
call it. And that was really where that sort of philosophy came in for me, and realizing like there's space, for all sides of the discussion. Like we can meet somewhere in the middle, if nothing else than to say like ultimately we want the same things, right? We want peace, we want to take care of our families, we want to like live a good life, we want to be healthy, right? Like and so for me, the politics and the system are just avenues for bringing that to the forefront.
Mm.
I have really not a lot of interest in pointing fingers in regards to who's right and who's wrong. I'm very focused on solutions. And I believe that when we look out on the political landscape, that it's this philosophy in the spiritual world, right? Where it's like what is happening on the macro is also happening in the micro, like
Yeah.
and we can learn so much about what is taking place in regards to how it is we're viewing what's taking place on the political landscape. um I do not believe that the issues that we are dealing with today are because of people. I believe that they were created when our systems were put into place. Our systems here, within the US, which is the one I can mostly speak into, people came here for freedom, and yet there was not freedom for all. There was slavery, women were treated horribly, like any number of things, right? And this is what it was built upon. And this system is sick and has only become sicker and sicker. And so it attracts a lot of those individuals who are also sick, and or it attracts really good individuals who come in and then unfortunately become corrupt because, money and power are, oh my gosh, they're pretty hot, right? It takes a very strong person to be able to navigate that and not, get inundated and sucked into the system. And then last but not least, kind of I believe that spirituality and politics are interconnected. I believe they must, like, politics must be spiritual. And I do not mean religion whatsoever.
Mhm.
I do not believe religion has any place in politics. I believe, for me, my definition of spirituality is coming home to who we are, the divinity that is within. And I believe we need leaders who are spiritual, who are looking at the whole, who are considering the whole,
Mm.
who are not in these positions for personal gain, who truly want to make our world a better place. And, it's a difficult position to be in because I believe a lot of politicians usually just have to make a decision between two not great options, certainly at this point in time. But I believe we must have spirituality in our political
Mm,
system.
yeah. I'm thinking of the Mexico's president and how I feel like she embodies that. I can't not remember her name at the current moment, but that was so well said. I just want to say I agree with everything you say. And I think that, you know, s- being like one of the hardest parts about me or hardest part about me coming out and starting to talk about politics is that in this community, it's very much like, oh, you're not allowed to bring politics into this. I came to you to not, hear that sort of information. And I feel like, not being able to talk about politics is a privilege. And it's a privilege that's basically saying the system works for you. And so it's much better for you to be quiet about it because it's working for you. You don't have to do anything about it. But that's not people's reality. A lot of people's reality is that they have to pay attention because it literally affects their lives. It affects like how they work, how they eat, how they get their access to healthcare. And so some people can't just turn that off. And so I think that's another like really important thing for me as well is that like to assume that you can't combine like politics into spirituality. I know you were kind of talking about the other way. But I'm kind of talking about the opposite here of like you can't be a spiritual person on this earth and pretend that politics don't affect you because it affects every single thing you do. How you eat, how you access your healthcare, how you go to work, how you go to school. And if you think it doesn't, it's because it's working well for you right now. And I think I come from that place of I've been there. I love that like you and I are kind of opposite backgrounds of like I came from a very like privileged perspective. Everything worked for me. And I think having been there for a long time and so slowly being removed from that, I think that it's given me that chance to kind of see things in a different way. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important to say because truly it is a place of privilege if you aren't talking about politics. And, when you and I kind of connected about starting this series, we both agree that I had shared with you that people like because I have been coming out more and talking about more politics
Hmm.
about how some people are like, oh no, you're so positive, like why do you want to dive into politics? And I personally believe that people who have a platform should be using that platform. I believe that it's not our responsibility to save the planet.
Yeah.
But it is our responsibility to involve people in what is helping kind of lay the foundation for their life. Like you're saying, what we eat, how we, our health, like all of these things, we can enjoy life without these things being in place and
Hmm.
without systems in place that actually honor these aspects of life,
Yeah.
and so I fully agree with that. And for me, again, I feel like it kind of goes back to the fact that both of us are passionate about injustice.
Hmm.
And of course, as this sort of mask is being ripped off, certainly here within the US, in regards to like, holy shit, this system
Everything.
doesn't work. This system doesn't work. This system doesn't work.
Yep.
It's just like we're all kind of being inundated with honestly like how crappy our basically all of our systems are
Mm.
when we've all been kind of feeding into this completely different narrative for so long. And it's sobering to say the least.
Hmm. Absolutely.
But I do like as well that we have two different perspectives on that because that's
Yeah.
that's huge. So in regards to how we want to be different with this series. So certainly what you can look forward to in regards to these episodes. Both Lauren and I are going to be choosing 3 topics to dive into for each episode in regards to just kind of big topics that are relevant, probably mostly focused on the United States, but might be outside of that, just kind of depending. And really kind of diving into these topics, looking at them from an Akashic perspective, a psychic perspective, in addition to bringing our own personal perspectives to it. Not just talking about like what is taking place, but talking about maybe some of the challenges, some of the benefits, some of the things that we see unfolding with these different issues, and then being able to offer that up, offer that back to you so that you can sit with it and ultimately, again, decide on your own what is best for you, what feels most aligned for you. Lauren asked this really beautiful question when we were kind of putting this together. She said, what would our audience find value in? And ultimately, my vision for this series is, again, to offer you a higher perspective of what is taking place, to give you some hope that it's like, we will make it through this. Nothing lasts forever. And that even in the crappiest of situations, there is a perspective that enables us to see the why behind it all, and all like the benefit behind it all. Lauren, how do you view this?
I mean, I totally agree. It's that combination of like, I hope that, I mean, obviously you're coming here for a spiritual perspective, not like some other random bro on YouTube or something that's got their opinions or whatever, not saying that they're not valid. But my hope here is to bring the things that I'm being given by spirit and provide that to you all. And like I'm kind of getting a lot of like dreams. I have spirit in my ear as a psychic. I'm clairaudient and clairvoyant, so I see things and I hear things. So I hope to bring that to the table as well as like combining it with the astrology that I'm like researching. And I know that Anna does that as well, and kind of looking at even like the geodetic astrology of like where is this going to happen and for how long is it going to happen. And this is just I'm kind of mushing all of these modalities together. Even pulled some Lenormand cards around Trump a couple weeks ago, like, and I'm using a combination of all my skill sets to hopefully bring that here and provide hope when hope is accurate, and preparation for when preparation is accurate, because I am not a psychic that sugarcoats things. I am not a psychic that lies about things. I tell it how it is, and I think that I see a lot of that. And I was telling Anna about this before. There's a lot of people that have gone viral because they are psychics and they're sharing hope and hope only. And I feel like that's a disservice to the people that follow them, because I don't see a whole lot of good things happening and coming around the corner. And so those people are going to be living in the clouds and not prepared, in my opinion. And so, although I never claim to be 100% accurate 100% of the time, it's very important to me to try my best. But again, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna tell you what I'm getting.
Yeah. And that's definitely an area where Lauren and I very much agree. My work is founded in love, and I've also
Mhm.
seen people go very viral for promoting the fear-based outcomes. And, this is very tempting to folks and very easy to fall into. But there is an upside to everything. Everything does serve a purpose for
Mm.
us on this planet. And I too am very direct, as you all know, who've been tuning into my podcast, that I can share the hard things. And I believe that it is our responsibility to do that. Absolutely. But ultimately, that is why we are creating this series, is because we're headed into some very rough couple of years. And we want to be a guiding light in that, to assist you in whatever way we feel called to for these episodes, and to give you our very best. We're not perfect. We don't know all things. We don't pretend to.
Mhm.
But both of us are very gifted in our own individual work. And so we're ultimately offering you up a beautiful gift to assist you in these times. And we look forward to hearing how it resonates, hearing what comes up for you, hearing how things resonate with you, and any ideas or perhaps topics, that might be really important for us to dive into that
Yeah.
you'd like to hear us talk about. We're
Hmm.
going to be having a lot of fun with this podcast series. And, like we know where we're starting out, but who knows where it's going to go.
Hmm.
So please do share any feedback with us that you might have. So kind of before we wrap up here, Lauren, is there anything else that you want to share before we kind of talk about what's coming up for us individually?
Um, I think the only thing that I wanted to share, and you kind of already touched on this, which is like just use your discernment when listening to us. Like whenever you're listening to any psychic, any spiritual
Anyone.
person, yeah, because we can have off days, we can not be connecting. Like I said, there's never 100% accuracy, and with a lot of this, we're looking into the future. The future can change. We're picking up on the strongest outcome right now, but somebody could make a decision tomorrow that shifts that outcome. And so that's something you also have to keep in mind is like, okay, if we said something last time and now it's kind of changed, it might be because the energy that we've tuned into has changed a little bit. And so like just knowing that the future can change, it's a little bit more fluid and there's a whole lot that goes into that. I made a whole video on my YouTube channel about it. But I think it's just important to keep in the back of your mind. And I think, yeah, again, my hope is just to like provide some hope so that you're not going to give up. One, because I don't want people to give up. I think that's a huge part of where I see the future being successful or not, and the outcome of where we head. Are we going to head this direction or that direction? And I think it's really, really important that people don't give up, and it requires regulating your nervous system, not listening to these episodes if you are not in a good place, but also like when you're ready and when you're ready to take action, listening, and doing things outside of this podcast to create that change.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the thing too, like we're not for everybody.
Yeah.
There's no person out there that's for everybody. So if we don't resonate with you, trust that. That's
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
We're not
It's
for
true.
you. And like not everyone's for us either. Like there are
Hmm.
people that I really love listening to and people I just don't. And
Yeah.
there's no good, bad, anything about it.
Hmm.
So again, and we will continue encouraging you to tune into your discernment, to listen to your intuition about things, because ultimately you are the creator of your life. And regardless of what it is that is taking place in our exterior world, it's our interior world that's going to either enable us to continue thriving and growing and enjoying even in the midst of difficulties, or getting sucked up into
Hmm.
everything. And we don't want to see that happen to you, which is, again, is why we are pulling this series together for you, because you can thrive in the midst of difficulties, and difficulties ultimately make us more compassionate. They make us stronger. They give us wider perspectives. um, a lot of really good things come through difficulty, and so we're here to be on that ride with you, and we'll show up as authentically as we can. um, so I'm so excited about this.
Me too.
Lauren, real quick, what do you have coming up this next month?
Yeah, this next month, I'm actually launching something that's a little bit unique. I'm actually hosting a group travel trip to Ireland. So by the time this episode comes out, it's already up, it's live. So I know some of you are new to me, but you're welcome to get to know me a little bit better. I'm taking people to Ireland to awaken their intuition, visit some of the sites in Ireland. This is like a next year thing, but if you want early bird pricing, you kind of have to book this month. So I'm launching that. I'm so excited because I've always wanted to host like retreats and a more spiritual style retreat combined with like history. So, but outside of that, I'm just kind of plugging away, hosting my usual. I do like psychic development game nights on my Psychic Development Society. We also also do like group coaching calls. So that's always there. It's a free resource. Anyone can join my community. If you feel like you've ever had psychic hits happen and you're like wanting to understand them a little bit more, we also have like a predictions page within that society as well. So if you have predictions as you're listening to this podcast, you are welcome to come over there and log them. A lot of me and my students have already been logging our predictions about the future that have been political. And it's been really crazy how many of us are picking up on the same things, which is super cool. But other than that, yeah, follow me on YouTube, and I usually try to put up a video every other week. But that's what I'm working on.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
And I'll be providing Lauren's information below this in the show notes as well. So you can easily connect with her, check out all of her many offerings. This month, upcoming month for me, December is going to be huge. I'm kind of preparing and planning for a very different 2026 for my business. So make sure to come and join me in the Soul Driven Collective, which is my community on Substack. That is where I send out, weekly emails, resources, all kinds of great information. You can also join as a paid member and get access to my monthly guidance circle where I channel the Akashic Records for folks, plus other, benefits. But make sure that you're either following me online or that you are connected so that you can see a lot of these new things that are coming out, which I'm so excited about. In addition, towards the end of December, I don't have a date yet, but I will be hosting my yearly Akashic Forecast and Clearing Circle, where I will be channeling for you. I will be taking you through a really beautiful Akashic experience and just in preparation for the year ahead. So it's always an incredible time to come together. And this will be right before January. So the dates will be coming out soon. But again, just stay tuned. Come join the SDC. We have a wonderful time in there. You can comment directly below any of the podcasts, any of the posts themselves, and get to know others and or get to know those within the inner circle. So we just want to say thank you so much for being here,
Mhm.
Lauren. Are we excited? I'm so
I'm so
excited.
excited. I just want to get to the next episode and start talking about things, but I'll make it. I'll survive.
We had to do the introduction.
I know, I know, I know.
Now it's done. Now
Yeah.
it's done. And we get to have some fun.
Yeah,
So
no. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you all for allowing me to be here. I know that sometimes bringing on guests is kind of like, who's this person? But hopefully I'm palatable.
Your fifth line, whatever, you've got it. All right, folks. You can look forward to these episodes about every 3 weeks, pretty much like once a month. So we're just going to kind of see what happens with the podcast, with this series and how things kind of unfold. If you're crazy about it, maybe we'll do more. We'll just kind of see. But we really look forward to this.
Mhm.
So again, thank you so much, Lauren, for
Thank you.
joining me on this journey. I
Of
can't
course.
wait.
Me neither.
Folks, make sure to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it. Leave rating review on iTunes, Spotify, whatever. Help folks come connect with the Soul Driven podcast. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time. And don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.